Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hey everyone, I'm Case Aiken. You might know me from such podcasts as Men of Steel or Another Pass, all stuff here at Certain POV. And you might also know that I am a child of the 90s, which should be no surprise then that I am a fan of side-scrolling beat-em-ups, particularly the three-quarter overhead games like Double Dragon, Final Fight, and Streets of Rage. And so today I am here to talk about Streets of Rage 4, which is such a gem of a retro throwback game that came out in 2020. Streets of Rage 4 is the continuation to the Streets of Rage series, which was a landmark series for the Sega Genesis, Master System, and Game Gear, but didn't really have much life after that. Originally, the series was conceived as a competitor to Final Fight, which had just at that time recently come out on the Super Nintendo in a pretty good state as a transfer from the arcade. The graphics look pretty good, the gameplay is pretty much there, it's missing a character, and it doesn't have a two-player mode, so it's definitely a flawed conversion. And Sega capitalized on those flaws by creating a game that really nailed it for all the things that the Final Fight conversion on Super Nintendo was lacking. While the sprites were generally smaller, they were very well detailed, same way as the Super Nintendo, but there was two-player co-op and a rich combat system for the first game. The sequel, Streets of Rage 2, is widely considered one of the greatest beat-em-ups of all time, and certainly is in the running for best beat-em-up on the Sega Genesis. 3 had some translation issues when it was brought over to the States, and so is usually not quite as well loved, but it remains a very good entry in the franchise. But then the series just kinda disappeared for a while. Well, check out Dotemu, aka the same people who would later go on to do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge. They picked up the property and in 2020 released a version that was on Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, Windows, Linux, Mac, whatever. And then, more importantly, they continued to put out versions of this game. So there's tons of expansion packs and it's available even on Android and iOS, which means if you've got a phone, you've got a great beat 'em up, because this game is a great beat 'em up. Streets of Rage 4 forgoes the classic pixel art style of the original for a much more cartoony, flashy kind of style to it all, but it works really well here. There is a robust system of combos and special moves, over-the-top action, and the combat level is appropriately challenging without being so difficult that it is frustrating to play in the first place. And in addition to all the different DLCs that have come out, there are tons of unlockables, including a lot of the original characters in their original sprite forms, which is really cool, including the kangaroo, who is a ton of fun to play. It continues the story from the original 3 games, which, to be fair, it's a beat 'em up, so the story isn't like the big thing that we're here for, but it does, and it's actually really fun. It better differentiates the fighting styles between the original characters, as well as introducing new characters with tons of cool fighting styles, and it's just, generally speaking, a really fun game. I bought it initially on my Xbox, played through it to death, loved it, and then realized that I could get it on my Retroid Pocket, which is an Android tablet with game controllers hardwired to it. And I was like, yep, buying that again because it's that much fun. I mean, look, we have spent a lot of time on this series praising the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle series, and it is no secret that Shredder's Revenge is considered such an amazing update to that franchise. And I have to tell you, I actually kind of prefer Streets of Rage 4. I mean, there are specific differences, and I would say that Shredder's Revenge is a better update of a console beat 'em up versus this being more of an arcade style beat 'em up, which is a very fine line anyway. And I'm really not going to disagree if someone prefers Shredder's Revenge. It's also an incredible game. I'm just here to tell you that Streets of Rage 4, which I don't see as many people talk about, is also an incredible game. The gameplay is rewarding. There's a combo system that makes you feel like you're actually good at these kind of games, which is also kind of its own secret sauce. There's a faction system in play, whereas you're always the good guy vigilante, but there are both your regular gang members, you know, like the guys with the long yellow coats that are both in Streets of Rage and in Final Fight, and all the other like gang hoodlums, as well as the police, who are super corrupt. And you will have to deal with like sci-fi-esque riot cops with like hard light energy shields for riot shields. It's really cool. There are tons of weapons to pick up, which is always a fun part of the Streets of Rage series. It's taking all these classic things and updating them really, really well. I wish someone would do the same for Final Fight, because these beat 'em ups all need some love. But I would say, hey, if you enjoy the side-scrolling beat 'em up and don't need like a level up system or anything in particular, and just enjoy fighting your way through all the nefarious people threatening a city, Streets of Rage 4 is an amazing entry. You can find it for very cheap on every platform that you could possibly have, and it's worth playing whichever platform you choose it on. So yeah, check out Streets of Rage 4. Again, it's available on literally everything. You have no excuse not to play it, unless this is not your genre, and in which case, it wasn't going to be your genre anyway. But if you like side-scrolling beat-em-ups, this is an amazing one. And it's competing for my favorite of all time in the genre. So yeah, check that game out. Again, it is everywhere, just like the things that I work on, because you can find Another Pass and Men of Steel anywhere you get your podcasts. You can also find stuff we're working on over at the Certain POV Media YouTube channel, which has been growing in the number of subscribers, and we're almost at the point where we can monetize, which would be really cool. So check that out as well. And if you want to subscribe, you might be the one to push us over the number. So check that out too. That would be really cool. But yeah, check out all of that. Check out me on all socials at Case Aiken, except for Instagram, where I am Quetzalcoatl5, holding on for dear life to that damn Ing screen name from when I was a pretentious high schooler. But yeah, check out all of that. Check out the Discord server for Certain POV, and then stay tuned to here, because there's going to be more awesome side quests from awesome people. And until then, happy gaming.
Hey, Nerf herders.
You sure you want to go with that?
Hey, everyone.
There we go. More inviting.
Have you ever had a movie that you really wanted to love, but something holds you back?
Or one that you did love in spite of a flaw?
Well, I'm Case Aiken.
And I'm Sam Alisea.
And on Another Pass, we sit down with cool guests to look at movies that we find fascinating.
But flawed.
And we try to imagine what could have been done when they were made to give them that little push.
We're not experts. We just believe in criticism.
Constructive criticism.
Sure.
So come take another pass at some movies with us.
And every now and then, we can celebrate movies that did it on their own, too.
You can find us at certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Pass it on.
Hey.
Oh, hey, Jeff.
What's going on, guys?
Oh, talking about Superman.
Oh, cool. I could talk about Superman.
I could talk some more about Superman.
We know.
I'll bet a few people would want to get in on this.
I'm down.
You know it.
That sounds like fun. I'll do it.
Cool, let's do it. We can call the show Men of Steel.
And you can find it at certainpov.com.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yay.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.